Um, the next thing I want to do to my rig is I want to be able to add facial animation to it. So I've got all my controls here, my clav, my shoulder, elbow, everything is done. My global control, and what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to simply do what is called it might be under rigging now, deform, create blend shape. What we're going to call this is, in this case, I'm just going to call it facial expressions and create. Under the inputs, you're going to notice I have a facial expressions um, input here, obviously, and from here, what I can do, I'm going to duplicate this once over for now, and I'm going to create some different blend shapes here in order to, I'm requiring only 5. So what I'm going to do is just do, whatever I do to this particular mesh will adjust this mesh. So let's say I want my eyelid to close or something. What I'm going to do is simply go through here. I'm going to adjust the verts at first. It's a little long process, but here we go. Okay. And you can do this by hand. There's no issue with that at all. And just keep working this into place. For the eye, I have a lot of vertices that are really, really close to one another. Generally, I would have liked to have had more verts right in here, but since I don't, I'll just have to work with what I've got. And here, I'm going to slightly bring these down. Maybe even actually bring them a little bit further down. I've got the topology in here, so might as well use it. And this is just for one of my shapes here. As I said, I'm only requiring 5. So his eyelid is closed, but got a feeling that's not going to be good enough because it's going to go through the mesh itself, the eyeball mesh. And you can always double check this, but for right now, I have a good feeling I'm just going to bring the last row down and drag that last row out. And I'm going to continue this process. Like so. And it looks like I still need to work this one down here a little bit. And what I'm going to do here in just a second is actually I'm going to test it. Okay, that looks pretty decent for right now as a first pass here. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this selected. I'm going to make sure I name it, and this is going to be L blink. I'm going to shift select my mesh, and I'm going to go to deform, blend shape, add. I'm going to hit the settings box. I'm going to hit apply and close just to see if it'll work and make sure I have no errors. And it seems like it worked just fine, so it should have just went directly to here. So I have L blink, and now on my mesh, I can blink his eye. So I'm going to double check it here to make sure I'm not getting any of the mesh going through the eyeball itself. And I'm going to keep these here. I notice a little bit right in here. I'm going to want to adjust that. So this will update live. And I think I'm going to create a new perspective here. And here is my actual mesh. So you'll notice when I have this highlighted, it highlights over here on the left. Okay. For whatever reason, this is still picking up the UVs. I'm going to do a perspective and do a new one here and see if that'll fix it. Because that glitching is not going to be very, very helpful at all when I'm trying to do something very, very tiny, tedious, and specific, but is actually very, very important. Okay, we'll go here, we'll go to vertex. It's still happening. I don't know why it does that. It's only in the Macintosh version as well, as far as I know. That should do it. Alright, so now I have, it's a little weird. If your camera is doing this where it's sort of picking up some strange, it's a clip plane. It's as if the camera is going through the mesh kind of thing. Add a 0 here, and that'll fix it. Okay, I'm going to bring this one back. Back and up. And I'm just trying to match it to the eyelid itself. Okay, so there we go. Now we've got our, under my channel box in the inputs, I've got my left blink, and I'm pretty pleased with that. That'll do a decent job. So there is my blink. Alright, so that would be 1, and it's named L blink. So I'm going to just continue forward with this one. I would do a right blink, a left blink, squinting, phonemes if I wanted to have lip sync, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to assign it to my head control for just this particular case. Generally there will be a whole set of facial expression controls above the head, and or to the side, wherever, with sliders, and you would do that just by running set driven keys, and you would have them animate like so. But in this particular case, I'm going to just add it to the head control. It is easy to animate. If you want to animate just the eyebrows and everything separately, you just need to make sure that we'll get to that when we start animating. But in order for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go modify, add attribute, facial expressions in Camelback, displayable, add, and L blink, keyable, minimum 0, maximum 1. Sometimes I'll set the maximum to 2 just to give it a little bit extra, but in this case this will be fine, and I'm going to hit add and OK. Or close, actually, because I wasn't trying to rename another thing. So now what I need to do is set my controller here to be connected to this, and that's the tricky part. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create, using the connection editor, we're going to connect it to this, but it's not the same as any other connection editor because we need to select the mesh itself and then Windows Hypergraph Connections. We have to make sure that we're actually selecting the facial expressions. Just clicking it down here doesn't do it well enough for the connection editor to actually understand that you're connecting it from the facial expression input to the controller up here. So what we're going to do is Windows Hypergraph Connections, and then here you're going to notice all these lines and stuff, and we're going to click this facial expressions blend shape, and now you should see and sort of understand that we've selected just the facial expressions input from the mesh, but not as like a sub-selection in the channel box. So you need to make sure that you select it in the hypergraph connections, and then we're going to go Window, and we're going to do General Editors, Connection Editor, and we're going to do Reload Right, and on the left, Reload Left, we're going to select our head control, and at the very, very bottom we have L blink, and over here we have something called Wait, and we're going to click on L blink here and close, and I can close out of this now. And now my left blink is controlled by that controller, not the input of the mesh. So that's pretty neat. So now I've got full facial, well, once I add more and more blend shapes, I'll have more and more facial animation to do, my right blink, maybe some things with the mouth and the eyebrows and so on and so forth. But this is a pretty decent start here. Thanks for watching. You just continue the rest of your blend shapes. I've shown how to do set-driven key on the jaw and on the foot controls. So if you wanted to create those sliders, you go ahead and do it that way. As in the Max for Maya or really any of those free animation rigs where they have the sliders above the facial controls above the head or to the side of the head. So you can do that using set-driven key and just using NURB circle and squares and stuff to set up the display. So for now, this is pretty good, and thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next time.